Okay, sound power now. And as Master Shah's one sentence secret is, what you chant is what you become. That's it. So simple. And it's so true. For thousands of years, in every spiritual tradition, they've chanted mantras. You know, chant the Darbejo, chant Namo Amitofu, chant Jesus' name, chant anything, and you are bringing in that frequency. You are bringing in that message. You are bringing in that, you are focusing on that. You are bringing it in to your DNA, to every part of your body. Master Shah says, chant the Buddha's name, become the Buddha. And this is true. I've experienced this. It's profound. In this video, I'm going to let Michael Tellinger do a lot of talking from one of his videos on Gaia TV. And I'm going to let him explain the power of sound power in this, because he does it beautifully.
What's fascinating is that all ancient cultures, no matter where you go, seem to have sound and resonance at its source of creation. In Christianity, it's the word of God, the word of the Creator. God said, let there be light. In Hinduism, Buddhism, we have the Om, the Aum, the resonance, the primordial resonance source that brought everything into creation. The Egyptians talk about the universe being sung into creation. And the original people of Australia tell us that everything was created with 3 sacred songs, and so it goes. The Hindu creation story is a spectacular one, and I'd like to read this for you. It says, everything was so peaceful and silent that Vishnu slept undisturbed by dreams or motion. From the depths, a humming sound began to tremble. Om. It grew and spread, filling the emptiness and throbbing with energy. The night had ended. Vishnu awoke. All this is telling us is exactly the same story as we read in the Bible. God said, let there be light. It's just a lot more dramatic and a lot more left to the imagination. Vishnu awoke means the darkness had ended. God said, let there be light. I trust you can all see that. And that brings us to this thing of sound. Since all ancient cultures talk about sound and resonance being the source of creation, so what is this thing called sound? We talk about sound. Ancient cultures tell us about sound bringing forth everything in creation. Let's explore this thing called sound, what we understand about it, and how can we use sound to benefit humanity into the future. Since sound is the thing, and sound and resonance is the thing that brought everything into creation, the argument is that we could use sound to do everything, and we'll find that that is in fact the case. So let us explore what sound can do. And this is just a short list that I've compiled. The list goes on and on and on. Sound levitates. You can levitate things with sound. And this has been shown throughout all of human history. For thousands and thousands of years, sound was used to levitate very large and very heavy objects. Sound boils water. Sound creates light, remember? God said, let there be light. Sound creates DNA. This is a spectacular discovery and a creation in 2011. Sound heals and destroys pathogens. We can cure all disease with sound. This has been done for many, many times over for thousands of years. Sound moves beyond the speed of light. Yes, this may be a big surprise to many, and it's probably one of the best kept secrets in modern science and physics, but sound moves beyond the speed of light. Not just a little bit, it moves infinitely beyond the speed of light. In fact, it is the sound and resonance that reaches everything in the fabric of creation instantly, and we'll explore that in much more detail, how that is possible, to give those that are still doubtful in their mind how that is possible, to give you the scientific background to this, how sound connects everything. Sound and resonance connects everything in creation instantly. Sound is responsible for new technology that was only released to us in 2009, known as Caesar technology. As opposed to laser beams, we're now talking about Caesar beams, where we have coherent beams of sound that can be used to create weapons of mass destruction, and so it goes. So this is a phenomenal discovery in new technology and our scientists today. What else can we do with sound? Sound can make things invisible. Sound can make things disappear. This is phenomenal. This goes to the heart of now really understanding how we can use sound and manipulate sound for our benefit and as a tool and as a weapon and as a source of energy, and everything we can imagine we can use sound for. Sound energizes water. The water that we drink is actually energized by the sound as it flows through nature and through vortexes and through spirals as it moves. It is actually the sound in the spirals that energizes the water when we drink it. Otherwise, the water would be dead. And the same can be said for the air that we breathe. It is the sound of the air that we breathe that actually energizes the oxygen. This is one of the greatest, for me, one of the most important discoveries that I've made over the last 2 or 3 years, is the fact that it is the sound that actually activates and energizes the oxygen that we breathe. And we'll go into much more detail about that. And finally, on this little short list of ours, sound can create hurricanes and sound can create big clouds and storms and rain. Many of you will be familiar with the experiments done that started already in the 1700s and the Chladni plates, and sound that vibrates on a metal plate, sand that vibrates on a metal plate, and the sound comes from beneath and creates these beautiful patterns. So what this does is show us the physical evidence how this invisible thing called sound can manifest into physical form. Every frequency is referred to as a prime resonance frequency. Everything in existence resonates at a specific frequency. From the tiniest atom, virus, molecule, everything has its own prime resonance frequency. It's interesting that this prime resonance frequency was most likely referred to in Star Trek as the prime directive, and that you cannot breach the prime directive. Now, let me explain to you what I believe this actually means. If everything comes out of the prime resonance frequency of creation, from the word or the sound of God, the Creator, everything comes forth from that one burst of creation, this resonance of creation, and it keeps coming forth out of this resonance, coherent, harmonic resonance of creation. That means that if you breach that, you're going against creation. You're in dissonance. You're in disharmony. You're in dis-ease with creation. You're breaching the prime resonance frequency, or you're breaching the prime directive. And this is why Star Trek was telling us for more than 5 decades now that you cannot breach the prime directive. What's the consequence of breaching the prime directive is that you actually start to destroy yourself, because you're in dissonance with the resonant frequency, the coherent, resonant, prime resonant frequency. In this little example, it shows us that the lower the frequency, the simpler the shapes, the higher the frequency, the more complex the shapes. This is one of the simplest, most beautiful examples to show people how sound manifests into physical form. This is the key word here, people. Sound manifests in physical form. This invisible, untouchable thing that leaves my mouth manifests in physical form. Now, this takes us to a brilliant discovery by a man called Eric Larson, who created or discovered what's known as the cymoscope, that can actually show us the physical form and the shape of the sound that we make with our voices, and the infinite number of shapes of our voices. But before we look at this incredible example in this video, I'd like to remind you that what you saw on the metal plate was a two-dimensional representation of a three-dimensional effect. So imagine that this is those shapes that you see on that metal plate actually go out in all directions. And remember that sound, when I make a sound with my mouth, it doesn't travel in a straight line. It doesn't go from my mouth to your ears. It goes in all directions. So it's like a bubble that's growing and going in all directions. Now, see it as that, right? This bubble that grows and goes everywhere. Imagine the human voice as a tool of creation. And we'll be talking about the tool of creation and our ability to manifest with our sound and the words that we speak and the thoughts that we have. And this brings us to a deeper understanding of who we are as spiritual beings, conscious beings connected to a physical body, and our abilities that are way beyond our current understanding. And this gets into much deeper spiritual levels of understanding our place on this earth, the fact that we are divine beings of infinite potential, and that we are co-creators of our reality. After all, even more than 100 years ago, quantum physics has clearly shown us that we are the makers of our own reality, the creators of our own reality. And this beautiful example with a cymoscope showing the power and the infinite creation that we can create with our voice is a beautiful example of this potential in the human body. We can create infinitely with our human voice. When we look at some of the still photographs of the cymoscope images, we come across a spectacular cross in a circle. This very famous image that we see all over human history. And sometimes a picture tells 1,000 words, and it is in this instance that we capture the knowledge and the information of those that created the religious symbols that we use in our churches, the religious symbols that have encoded this information, that sound is the creative source. Those that came up with the logos, with the symbols for Christianity, and the Coptic cross, and the pagan cross, and the Knights Templar crosses, and so forth. These are all part of the secret societies in ancient times, encoding this knowledge that sound is the source of creation. If you take lycopodium powder, it's a very, very fine powder from a plant. So when you look at this video clip, remember you're looking at powder on a metal plate. You're not looking at a jelly or a liquid or anything like that. It is powder on a metal plate behaving like a jelly type or a liquid kind of substance. So imagine this powder on this metal plate being the soil and the surface of planet Earth that echoes the sentiments of the original people of Australia's story of creation and the manifestation of the surface of planet Earth. The sound frequencies coming out of the center of planet Earth, we all know that the planet and the Earth rings like a bell. It gives off, it never stops giving off sound resonance from the core of the planet. And these frequencies and these resonance field hit the surface of the Earth, resonating and vibrating the surface soil on the surface of the planet, just like the lycopodium powder is vibrated on this metal plate. And imagine you're seeing the surface of the Earth, but over millions of years that have been compressed into seconds. And this is how the surface of the Earth was formed, as shown in this Aboriginal story and by Hans Jenny in his classic Cymatics documentary from 1960s.
Circular shapes appear, but these are in a state of continuous upheaval. The particles are pushed outwards from the center and inwards again from the outside, and at the same time they pulsate. We can recognize the various patterns of the vibratory fields. They move to and fro, unite, and separate again according to the vibratory state of the surface formed by the membrane. And we can, as it were, move over a landscape which is in a state of vibration. If we intensify the note, if we produce a crescendo for the ear, the masses are hurled outwards. We see fountains, eruptions, explosions almost. But invariably, the particles return to the center, so that here again, even under these violently dynamic conditions, we find there is circulation.
So can you see this beautiful yellow powder moving across the surface of the earth? Well, it just so happens that this is an original people of Australia's creation story, and I just recently flew over the Australian outback down in northern South Australia and took these aerial photographs that very closely resembles this lycopodium powder moving on the metal plate, and we can see the features of Mother Earth just the same way we saw the lycopodium powder creating it from the resonance under the metal plate. It is spectacular when we start recognizing and connecting these dots and seeing how sound and resonance is behind everything in our reality.
Now, imagine this. Really, we have a solution. The Maharishi effect, John Hagelin, a lot of these quantum physicists and a lot of research that's gone into the Maharishi effect shows that when practitioners embody peace, it's reflected around them. There's a video here I'll show you of John Hagelin saying it's not hard to shift consciousness.
We are actually all deeply connected. We don't see the connections on the physical level, but at the level of quantum mechanics, quantum field theory, and unified field theory, ultimately, we are all one. Everything that we do conventionally, which is trying to find agreement and negotiated settlements, starts to work when the attitude of the leaders and the people starts to shift. And you can shift consciousness very easily. If you have a small number, a relatively small percentage of a population meditating, transcending, experiencing that deep calm within themselves, just as you could say violence begets violence, through this meditation practice, enough people, peace can beget peace. This was done 7 times in the Middle East, and what happened was the level of war, fighting, war deaths, war injuries, rise and fall in very strong correlation to the number of people who are creating peace and dissolving stress in the collective consciousness. Let's do this. It's a fraction of what we're spending like in a minute in combat to do what we're doing. And if it does work, it can change the world.
So with everything I've shown you, we need to understand. First, understand that we have a solution and understand how it works. The second step is you have an experience. You practice with it and have your own tangible experience, and I'm going to lead a meditation in another video. And then the third step is to share it. You know, Master Shah received this song and he copyrighted it to humanity. This movement, this song was given to us by Master Shah, but it is ours. It's humanity's movement, and this is our solution, 100%. This is what everybody's talking about. They're all talking about we need to live in love, we need to do this, but I don't really see many people given a solution. And I'm going to use this final part of the video as a call out, okay? I've read Neil Donald Walsh, Eckhart Tolle, the Dalai Lama, Greg Braden, David Wilcock, so many, Sri Ravi Shankar, Grandmother Parisha, everything, I've watched a lot of here, Amma. The message is universal with these incredible beings and the greats that have left us, Martin Luther King, Mahatma Gandhi, so many more. It's joining together as one. It's a universal message that has been taught and spoke about for thousands of years. And now we are at a point where we need to apply it. And I am calling every great leader out there, every great mind, Nassim Haramein, Michio Kaku, all the great scientists that are doing all the great work, all the great truth seekers, all the great spiritual leaders, to come together and make change now. Because if we came together and we brought all of our groups, all of our spiritual communities and our followers together for a number of mass global events where we apply mass intensive meditations along with sound power, we literally can change the world now. Master Shah says we need to have it in by 2020. But as the Blue Avians say to Corey Good, it's up to us. Why wait till 2020 when we can do it now? Literally, we can make change now. So if you're listening to this and it's ringing a bell in your heart, you're feeling that this is a solution because it is, and you understand it, next step is experience it. And then the next step is share it and come together. And we're gonna build a website, and we're gonna put on a few of these events. I'm gonna give my email address. So please contact me and ask any questions. If I can't answer them, I'll get them answered. I love you all, I really do. Humanity is a good species. We're all born innocent, loving, compassionate, and we're lost. We've been lost for a long time. And it's time to transform the world that we live in and seriously consider leaving a world for our children and our children's children and so on, and connecting back with the Tao. And the Tao is the universal principles and laws of creation, of love, of harmony. And when we align with that, we are going with the flow. As Master Shah says, follow Tao flourish, go against Tao finish. And this is the Love, Peace, Harmony movement. And once we break our energetic ties to the dark forces and we are being forgiven for the mistakes we've made and we are ascending, then I believe truly that the Ubuntu movement, Michael Tellinger's Ubuntu movement, is so important for creating the new way of living on this earth. If anybody is not familiar with the Ubuntu movement, get familiar with it. Get familiar with the work Michael Tellinger is doing, because he is an absolute peaceful spiritual warrior. He's doing great work. And the Ubuntu movement, I believe, walks hand in hand with the Love, Peace, Harmony movement. I see them being the yin-yang alternation of the soul light era. One is the raising the consciousness and the spiritual side, and the other, the Ubuntu movement, is the down-to-earth physical movement that's going to implement the new way of living. I've really enjoyed sharing the great information from others and through my teacher, Master Shah. I love you, Master Shah. I'm very grateful. And I hope that this has really ignited the spark in whoever's watching this. I love you all so much. May we join hearts and souls together in love, peace, harmony, and create a love, peace, harmony world family. Thank you. Bye-bye.